Welcome back to the Scaredy Cat Guide, my friends. My name is Jenny, and today we are talking about the Festival of the Lion King in Disney's Animal Kingdom. If you're new here, this is the channel where we talk about theme parks and anxiety. We talk about sensory issues and really just anything that you might want to know if you're an anxious rider like I am. Now, Festival of the Lion King is an Animal Kingdom classic. I absolutely adore this show, but there are definitely a few things we need to talk about, especially in the sensory department. Aside from being just a little bit overstimulating, it also has a very interesting ride system and theater orientation. So without further ado, let's dive into those details. This Lion King celebration contains loud sound design, some flashing lights and sensory effects, and a very unique theater orientation. So let's start off by talking about that loud sound design. Now, aside from the music, of course, we also have loud roaring and other animal sounds that can be pretty overwhelming. Now, these noises can sometimes sound a little bit menacing, especially during the Be Prepared segment. Now, this isn't, I would say, outright scary really in any way, but it can sound a little bit intimidating with the roars and the flashing lights. All of those things combined can make for just maybe a little bit of an intense segment. Now let's talk about those flashing lights and the loud visuals that we'll experience here. So of course we have a lot of colorful costumes, props, and lighting effects that definitely make this show a little bit overstimulating. We actually have some fire effects, again during the Be Prepared segment, but this performance is incredible and honestly one of my favorite parts of the show altogether. But of course, well, be prepared that there is a lot of fire involved on stage. There's a fire dancer, and even though it's not really close enough for you to feel the heat or anything like that, it does kind of lend itself to a more intense feel or vibe just during this particular segment. Now finally, let's touch on that unique theater orientation. So you will be seated in one of 4 groups located in each corner of the theater. So this means that the stage is in the middle, leaving the spaces in between for performers, large parade floats, and other parts of the show. So because of this, leaving the theater mid-show is just a little bit more complicated or a little bit more difficult than other Disney shows you might have been a part of. Now, of course, this does not mean that you cannot leave the show. Of course you can, but you do need to ask a cast member, make sure you talk to them so that you can leave safely. For me, even though this is an otherwise pretty typical Disney show, I always feel a little bit anxious or feel a little bit claustrophobic or even trapped just knowing that I can't stand up and leave just whenever I want to. But believe me, for your safety, you really do need to talk to that cast member, make sure that you can exit when it's a safe time, when we don't have performers running in between the seating sections. And like I said, it is not impossible, but maybe just a little bit more complicated and a little bit more difficult, which to me can make the seating feel just a little bit claustrophobic. Now let's talk about the actual seating arrangements here. Now the theater itself seats 1,450 guests approximately in 4 distinct sections. Now the seating here is bleacher style, so it feels a lot like your local basketball game. And this very basic seating has no restraints of any kind or moving or any effects of that nature. Now the 4 sections you'll be seated in are elephant, giraffe, lion, and warthog. And depending on which section you're sitting in, you will actually get to play a part in the show itself. Don't worry, it's not anything super intense. You'll just be making some animal noises, but it definitely adds to the fun and really gets you involved in the story and the show itself. Now, when it comes to the show duration, Festival of the Lion King clocks in at right around 30 minutes long. Now this is fairly average when it comes to other shows around Disney World, maybe just a little bit on the longer side, but there's really so much going on. It's a very entertaining show that to me, it didn't seem like a super long time and it didn't really add to the claustrophobia to me. And now that you have all the facts, let's actually go hop in line. Now this one is on a schedule. This show usually runs on the hour, so you really won't be waiting too terribly long if you time it right. So let's go enjoy this show together. You'll find the entrance to this attraction in the Africa section of Disney's Animal Kingdom. Now the queue is very straightforward. You'll just walk inside. There will be this covered area that you'll wind around in back and forth. Now there is no AC here, but we do have a few fans, and in my experience, you're not usually waiting for very long outside in this area. Now of course, this show does run on a schedule, so it will depend on when you arrive. Of course, if you show up and get in line a full hour before the show starts, you can be waiting for quite some time. I typically typically don't have any trouble walking in, even if it's pretty close to the showtime. So if you don't want to wait in line for a very long time, I would recommend waiting and maybe not joining that line too terribly early if you don't want to be stuck outside for very long. Now, once they start seating, you will actually enter the theater pretty quickly. After winding around in this outdoor area, you'll make your way inside and you'll be seated in one of those 4 sections that we were talking about. Now, again, this would be the elephant, giraffe, lion, and warthog sections. When I was filming, I was in the lion section, which is my personal favorite. But regardless, a cast member will send you on your way, tell you where you will be seated, and you'll just make your way up the bleachers, find a seat, and sit down. Now, once the attraction actually sets off, you will be welcomed to the show by our cast. You'll find out which section you're seated in, and it's a very kind of pep rally vibe here. Each of the 4 hosts and characters will be assigned to each of the sections. Now, you'll hear a very brief rendition of the Circle of Life before Simba and his other giant puppet friends join the party. Now, these characters will be seen on parade floats, so they're really not much different from the parade floats you'll see around the parks. But we do have these large puppet figures of Pumbaa, Simba, a giraffe, and an elephant. Now, they don't move too terribly much, and to me, they aren't scary or really intimidating because they're not super close to you or anything like that. They have such limited movement that to me, they don't really have that uncanny valley that you might find with some animatronics or other characters like that. They're of course very happy, very upbeat. Timon and Simba have a few lines throughout the show, but for the most part, they just sit kind of in the corner of the stage and you don't really hear much from them. Now, after this, we'll jump into a rendition of Just Can't Wait to Be King, which is a great time, before diving into Hakuna Matata featuring the amazing Tumble Monkeys. Now, this is an acrobatic segment that is so very cool. I just absolutely adore it every time I get to go see them. And after this segment, we will encounter that Be Prepared segment. This is where the fire dancing is, where some of that loud roaring and kind of menacing animal sounds come in. Of course, like I said, it's not really intentionally scary. It's really kind of on par with what you may have experienced in the Lion King movie. But just because this song is centered around the villain of the movie, it has a little bit more of an intense feel. The lights are dimmer, you've got the fire dancer, and I found it really, really cool. My kids didn't have a problem with it, but I could definitely see it being a little bit intense, especially if you're not anticipating it. Now, next on the docket is Can You Feel the Love Tonight, which has another acrobatic segment with these beautiful bird characters. This one always brings me to tears for some reason. It's so beautiful and just such a cool experience. Now then, of course, we will have a fuller rendition of the Circle of Life, and then The Lion Sleeps Tonight, which the entire audience usually pitches in and sings together. Overall, this entire performance is very joyous and celebratory in nature. While it does have some of those kind of intense moments or maybe a little bit of a menacing moment or two, I would say overall it's got that super fun, family-friendly, pep rally type vibe going on for almost the entire performance. And with that, the show will come to an end. You will hear over the speakers that you are free to leave the theater and you will be directed outside from your section and out into the beautiful Florida sunshine. And there we have it. What do you think about Festival of the Lion King? This is a show that I really wish I did more often. It is such a great time. It's great for the entire family. Very fun, very celebratory in the best Disney way. Now, of course, like I said, there are a few things to look out for, especially in the sensory department. It can feel a little bit overstimulating, and for me personally, the thing that keeps me from doing this attraction regularly is the seating arrangement. Even though I know I can get out of the theater if I absolutely have to, there's something about that mental block of knowing that it's a little bit more difficult and that I have to talk to a cast member, and for me, it can kind of stir up my anxiety from time to time. Now, this will not be the case for everyone. If you're not as claustrophobic as I am, it might not be an issue at all, but I just wanted to mention it just in case. Now, of course, if you enjoyed this video and you would like to see more like it, don't forget to like, subscribe, stick around, stay a while. We would love to have you in our little community of anxious riders. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next one.